Hi, it's Matthew Porter again with Drafthouse Diary Episode 1. In case you missed Episode 0, I've got an Alamo season pass and I plan to bring you a review every time I go to the Alamo Drafthouse Cinema from here on out. And that includes reviews of the movies, but also reviews of the food, the theater experience, the staff, everything about going to the movie on that particular day for that particular show. And the first movie for which I used my Alamo season pass was kind of the perfect movie to do that for. It was MOONAGE Daydream, Brett Morgen's documentary about David Bowie. So this was a movie that did not have wide release, and I didn't know a lot of other people who would be interested in going to see it, but it was exactly a movie that I was really eager to see in a theater. The season pass made it easy to do that. So I went to a late night showing at the Alamo Drafthouse Cinema, Sloan's Lake in Denver. The movie, first of all, was amazing. It was everything I expected and hoped for from the movie. Brett Morgen is a talented documentarian, and for this movie he had amazing access to the entire David Bowie archive. And he put together a story that had a narrative, even though he didn't use the usual documentary techniques to impose some kind of a specific movie narrative on the subject that he was filming about. He didn't have any interviews that were shot for this movie. He didn't have any talking heads. He just put together a story of David Bowie's life from all of this archival material and very careful curation, selection, editing, sometimes collaging and using other techniques, but it was all the material that he had from these archives. And of course, it's a remarkable story. This movie takes David Bowie from around the Ziggy Stardust years to the end of his life. And it's amazing to see that transformation. Now, I like David Bowie's stuff a lot. I'm sure that I do not know nearly as much about David Bowie and his work as many people do. And I found that this filled in some gaps for me as to what David Bowie was doing at certain times. And by having archival interviews with Bowie and his own commentary about his work and his process, I understood better what he was doing and what he was attempting to do. For example, I was familiar with the music that came out of his time in Berlin, the Berlin trilogy, but I didn't really know what gave rise to that, what led him to move to Berlin, what was he trying to do when he started collaborating with Brian Eno on those albums. And getting to see the process, getting to hear David Bowie talk about the process and the reasons behind it, that was amazing. I love anything that's going to document the work of an author or an artist of any kind. And that includes fictionalized biopics. I love those, even though I understand they're not usually true. But it also is true for documentaries like this. So if you have any interest in David Bowie, or if you're just interested in seeing the development and the process and hearing from an artist of any kind, by all means, you should see this movie. If possible, see it in a theater. It's visually spectacular. You want good sound when you're seeing it, because of course, there are tons of David Bowie musical performances in it. Other aspects of the theater experience. The pre-show. That's something I don't know that I mentioned during my episode 0. It's something else that the Alamo Drafthouse does is, in addition to showing you the movie, they have a pre-show. The theater opens, the auditorium opens a half an hour before showtime. That's when your tickets are valid. You can go in. And they have a half an hour of... It's a compilation of shorts and music videos and old commercials and all kinds of video and music material. They usually have custom pre-shows that are geared towards the movie that they're going to be screening. They are a lot of fun to watch. They're nostalgic. They get you in the mood to see the movie you're about to see. And they're also part of what makes going to see a movie at the Alamo more than just going to see a movie. It's an experience, it's an event, it's a celebration of movies and of the movie you're going to see. So that's one of the things I like about the Alamo. That said, the pre-show, the pre-roll for MOONAGE Daydream, it was predictable. It was a lot of David Bowie music videos. It was some David Bowie commercials. He was doing, I think, Pepsi commercials. And of course, they dragged those in. His bizarre video for Dancing in the Streets with Mick Jagger. Lots of David Bowie material to work with. And they didn't just pick the quote-unquote best or most important. They were having fun by showing you the whole range of what Bowie had done, especially in the 80s and 90s, I think. So a good pre-show, if predictable. Food. I had the fish and chips. The fish and chips were okay. They were decent quality, but the batter seemed a little bit undercooked. I'm not going to be in a hurry to try that again. Maybe I'll try the fish and chips at a different location, Alamo. There are, by the way, 3 Alamo locations within striking distance of my house, and a 4th is scheduled to open next year, so I look forward to seeing if there are any grand opening events around that. But I don't think I'm going to get the fish and chips, at least at this location, again anytime soon. I also had a Brooklyn Lager, which was very good, and I had coffee, and the coffee was surprisingly good. Coffee at the Alamo has been an up and down proposition. Once upon a time, the Alamo, when you ordered coffee, they'd bring you a glass French press, which was kind of cool, but they didn't continue that, and I can understand why. As a customer, it was kind of fiddly to be watching a movie and have this little table that's in front of you at your seat and being expected to operate a French press in the mostly dark and not disturb the people around you. But you got several cups of coffee out of that French press. When they discontinued the French press, they would just bring you a mug of coffee. And it was, in theory, a bottomless cup of coffee. But that meant that you had to get an order to the server to get a refill, and that sometimes can be difficult at the Alamo. It used to be more difficult. It used to be that you would just write everything on an order card and stand the order card up in a little stand at the front of your table that's just built into your chair. And then you had to rely upon the server to notice that there's a tiny card standing up in front of your chair, at the end of your table. And it sometimes took them quite a while to find that out. Now the Alamo has gone to what makes so much more sense. It's a call button system. You still write your order on a card, you still stand it up, but then you can push a button on that table and it lights a tiny red light on the other side of your table, so it's not going to be visible by anybody who's looking forward to watch the movie. But it'll be visible to a server who's trying to find out who's called them. And it sends a signal back to wherever the servers are monitoring this. It does a few things. It means that servers come more promptly. It also means that they can have a server covering more than one theater. And that's important, especially at times like these late night screenings that I sometimes go to when sometimes I have the theater to myself. Sometimes there are just 2 or 3 of us. We don't need a server monitoring that all the time, but we know that they're going to be there if we do have an order. So that's all good. So this time, I got off on the whole server situation. This time I ordered coffee, and it was the best of both worlds. They brought me a little mug, and they brought me a stainless steel thermal pitcher. It had a pour spout, it had a handle, it was thermal, and it held at least as much as the old French press did, if not more, probably about 3 cups of coffee worth. And it was good. It was hot. It was good diner coffee. So I will definitely order the coffee again at the Alamo Drafthouse. So to sum up the food situation, the fish and chips, not great. Not in a hurry to order those again. The Brooklyn Lager, that was really good. And the coffee, surprisingly good. I'll definitely be getting that again. So that's all for this Drafthouse Diary. Thanks very much for watching. If you liked this, please click like down below. And if you want to hear more of these reviews, click subscribe. And I will be back with another review next time I go to the Alamo. In the meantime, enjoy your movies and stay till the end of the credits.